This fireplace looks gorgeous now, all decked out for the holidays, but it's just had a big makeover. The homeowners are finishing up a full reno of the entire space, and the old brick fireplace, it just wasn't going to cut it with the new aesthetic. Now, paint was a great solution and certainly much more cost-effective than replacing or covering up brick. Now, I'm not going to lie, it does take a lot of work and time, but you can do it in the weekend if you're dedicated, and you can be done just in time to decorate it for the holidays. Now, I always find preparation takes longer than the painting, but it is a necessary evil. You want to be sure you start with a nice clean surface. If there's any loose debris, remove it with a wire brush, and then follow up with a good cleaning with soap and water. Now, if you had a wood-burning fireplace like this one was, you want to use an all-purpose cleaner like TSP to really scrub away any soot. After that, it's really important to let the brick dry for a good 24 hours because it is quite porous before you start priming and painting. Now, when you get to actually painting and priming, it's a good idea to use a brush in those deep mortar areas. It's a little bit more work, but you know what? You want to make sure that you cover everything that you can. And once you're done with the priming, the painting, you just need to do 2 coats, and you can use a high pile roller and an extension pole. I really like how the eggshell or matte finishes just enhance the natural texture of the brick. You could use a shinier paint if you want to reflect more light or make it super easy to clean. I use the color Steam so it's consistent with the ceilings and the trim throughout the space. Now, aside from painting the brick, the new gas insert and the reclaimed wood mantle really upgraded the function and the look. To add to the holiday spirit, we just brought in some winter greens and some seasonal accessories that can easily be changed out.
Okay, Sharon, that fireplace works so much better in the space now that it is painted. It looks gorgeous. It can be a bit of a difficult decision, though, for people, but it fits in really nicely with the renos that happen there. And now you're going to show everyone how to paint some other surfaces that aren't brick, but they are part of a fireplace.
Yes.
And we're going to start with tile.
Yes, you know, definitely brick is the most common material that we see that people surround their fireplaces with, and they feel it's pretty an easy thing to take on to paint.
Yeah.
But tile and stone, there's lots of other materials as well, and they last forever, but they start to look dated, especially tiles. So this one here is a very shiny tile, so you can kind of see how it reflects. So that is a little bit trickier to paint.
Yeah.
But like pretty much everything that you're going to paint, you want to make sure you have a clean surface. So this absolutely, make sure you clean it really well. An all-purpose cleaner like TSP, something that'll cut the grease, because you just don't realize how dirty and fingerprints everything gets, right?
Yes.
So clean it really well, and then with this glossier tile, I actually sanded a little bit with an 80 grit just to give as much, you know, you don't have to cut it right back, but just a little bit. And then I always use my favorite Sticks primer because it sticks. Right? And then you're going to use a top coat. Now, the top coat is going to depend on whether we're painting a floor tile or whether we're painting a wall tile. So, Tracy, you've been around with me a long time. Do we put wall paint on floors?
We do not. No, we don't.
Thank you. We do not put wall paint on floors, even if it's just that little hearth at the front of your fireplace, okay? Because you're going to put things on there. It's a horizontal surface. It's going to get a little bit more abuse than the, than the vertical surface.
You might sit on it. Someone might stand on it. The kids might stand on it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You know exactly what happens. So you keep the advanced paint for the wall surface, but definitely use the latex floor and patio because it's meant for floors on any floor surface.
Right. Okay. So you need to always keep that in mind for the tile. But now let's talk about wood. So you might have a fireplace mantle that is a little bit older wood. What do we do to try and refinish that?
Yeah, you definitely want to think about all of the surfaces around your fireplace. And actually, I have a before and after of a project that I showed a few years ago on Cityline where we painted the marble tile, we painted the slate tile, and then we also painted the wood mantle that was around it just to tie in with the more contemporary look.
It's gorgeous.
In that case, it was already painted the wood, but otherwise, you're really treating it like trim or any other wood fixture that you would have around your house, Tracy. So this is kind of a typical, probably a fireplace mantle from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, a higher gloss wood finish.
Yep.
You want to do the same thing as I mentioned with the tile. You want to cut that sheen with an 80 grit sandpaper, and then you don't have to prime it if you're going to use advanced paint, But I still recommend, I like to prime it because I just know that the surface is nice and even for me.
True. Yeah.
And this is a really good tip. If you're going to be using a high gloss paint, use your tack cloth after you've sanded. Feel that it's like sticky?
Yeah,
right?
It is.
So instead of just using a damp towel, this will actually pull off any of that sanding residue. So it goes into those grooves, pulls everything out, and then sand over the primer again with like a 200 grit sandpaper.
Is that less abrasive?
Really fine. Feel it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right? Like super, super smooth. So you'll go over that and then again use your tack cloth, and then you've got a super smooth surface when you paint your high gloss, because the high gloss paint tends to show up all of your little imperfections.
Every single little thing. So a few steps to consider in there. I hope you were taking notes, right? There's a few steps. What if you have brand new wood? So this is like fresh.
Fresh. So you buy a fireplace mantel. A lot of times they are just natural wood and maybe a combination with MDF. So you've got two different materials and they're both very porous. So they're going to accept paint or anything differently. So definitely prime this. I like to use Fresh Start oil primer when I'm doing raw wood or MDF. It's a little bit thicker. It sort of seals really well, levels, and it sands really well as well. So you just want to do a little light sanding before you put on your finish. But you know, again, you want to think about what type of finish. There's a wide variety from high gloss right to matte.
Why don't we actually show these different finishes? So you know what, we're going to start up here.
Start with the high gloss.
So this is the high gloss, super shiny, and as you said, a little bit less forgiving.
It'll show up all the fingerprints. You're going to have to, you know, have your cleaning materials around.
Absolutely. And then this one's a little less shiny. What is this one called? Semi-gloss.
Yeah. So that's a good in-between. I love that one.
Yep. And then we get into
pearl.
Probably I would go with pearl.
Right, like I love pearl baseboards as well. Like it's sort of my favorite finish.
And then finally, ooh, I love the fact that this is so matte.
It's so matte, so it's not going to show any imperfections, and it really does kind of absorb the light, so it's a very different look. It's like having velvet on your baseboards or on your fireplace mantle.
Okay, very nice. Any basic colors you want to stick to when it comes to your fireplace?
Black and white are the most popular, but I love seeing people use lots of color. I love seeing people do monochrome, like your outfit, Tracy. Imagine a fireplace, the whole room in yellow, or we've got some blues and greens that I had some examples of where it's, again, very contemporary, using the whole color surrounding the space.
Sharon, thank you so much. Now, even if you don't get to it before the holidays, winter is a great time for this project as well.